It's time for On Point, where we speak to experts to delve deeper into key issues in the spotlight right now. Of course, as we mentioned earlier on, North Korea launched 3 short-range ballistic missiles on Thursday, the regime's first provocation since the South Korean president's inauguration this week. Now, it was a move widely anticipated, though, almost a rite of passage for every South Korean president, but the timing also coincided with the news of Pyeongyang admitting for the first time that there had been an outbreak of COVID-19 within its borders.
To discuss these latest developments, we connect with Professor Song Se-ryun, Professor of Law at Kyung Hee University. A very warm welcome to you, Professor. Thank you for joining us. And well, first off, this launch of 3 short-range ballistic missiles by North Korea. Of course, it was a move that was anticipated, but we know that North Korea picks its timing very carefully. So what do you think was behind this launch, and what do you think was the message that they were trying to convey?
Good morning. There could be a number of and probably a combination of reasons. I think that there is an element of a bully flexing his muscle in front of the new kid in town, maybe test the mettle of the new president. But I think it's also that the provocation was done ahead of President Joe Biden's visit to Korea next week. So we certainly will have to talk about North Korea. After Donald Trump's willingness to engage, North Korea has not been on the agenda for the U.S. So I think this is a case where they're crying for attention, so to speak. But there's also a situation where Ukrainian war and Japan trying to take advantage of the situation to amend their constitution. I think the North Korea might feel the urgency to upgrade their military and nuclear capacity. But yet another reason could be that it serves a domestic purpose as a diversion to North Korean people to divert their attention to the achievements militarily rather than on the ills and dissatisfaction in the domestic front.
So another thing that we want to talk about is if any other country kind of reports on COVID-19 infections, that's nothing out of the norm, but it is when North Korea all of a sudden reports on their COVID-19 outbreak, especially 2+ years of denials, saying there's never been a case. Big question now is, why now? Why admit that there has been an outbreak after 2+ years?
Well, things might be getting out of hand, first of all. But the similar case is China. China is dealing with it with a very harsh lockdown. North Korea may feel that they can be frank about it to deal with it. Another reason might be that the North Korea is now finally asking for help for the wider community or global community, maybe reaching out to COVAX or maybe showing the sign that they might be willing to take some aid from even from South Korea or the U.S., which I think is a little bit unlikely since they have the COVAX route. But it does show that things are not manageable with just a hush and keeping quiet about it.
And Professor, well, here in South Korea, we saw just how rapidly this Omicron variant just spiraled out of control here and tested some of the best medical infrastructure in the world. But if this spreads in North Korea, then just how devastating is it going to be on the population?
It could be very devastating. Omicron variant was somewhat manageable in South Korea, even with the high peaks for a while in terms of death and serious cases. That they were pretty manageable. But that's because the vaccination rate in South Korea was very high, in the upwards of 80%. North Korea might be different in that regard. And once the infection spreads, the fatality and the serious cases might just jump really rapidly. So that might be the situation. So it would not be the same case or a similar case with the South Korean development of the COVID.
So we saw with the new president Yoon Se-ryun making his global stage debut with the COVID summit. Now this could potentially be his first task when it comes to North Korea-related issues. How do you suppose Yoon Se-ryun is going to respond to this? Is he going to give humanitarian assistance? And also, what do you hope to see out of all this?
Well, South Korea has always been very open to humanitarian help on this. So he might not be very political about it. Ideally, if South Korea provides aid, that would be met by North Korea's willingness to refrain from provocations. But we have seen in the past that North will be North, and we cannot rule out their continued belligerent behavior to test the new administration and serve their purposes, even with the aid provided. So we'll see what happens. But I think that the help provided by the South Korea is something that they can depend on if they choose to.
Well, thank you very much for your insights today, Professor Song.
My pleasure. Thank you.